Chapter 1. The Power Within, Understanding Emotional Intelligence. In the high-paced, result-driven world of modern professionalism, intelligence is often equated with success. Degrees, technical skills, certifications, these are the currencies of credibility. Yet, time and again, we've seen individuals with soaring IQs falter in leadership, struggle with collaboration, or crumble under pressure. What bridges that gap? What sets apart the truly influential, resilient, and inspiring professionals from the merely competent? That elusive X factor is emotional intelligence, often abbreviated as EQ. Emotional intelligence is not a modern buzzword, it's a timeless tool, the unsung hero behind strong leaders, thriving teams, and fulfilled individuals. Where IQ measures intellect, EQ governs the human heart. It is how we manage ourselves and our relationships, and it's the force that transforms knowledge into wisdom, strategy into empathy, and pressure into performance. Imagine two colleagues faced with a failed project. One erupts in frustration, blames the team, and sows a sense of panic. The other calmly acknowledges the setback, discusses solutions, and motivates the team to learn and improve. The second colleague, regardless of technical skill, is a leader in the truest sense. The difference? Emotional intelligence. What exactly is emotional intelligence? Coined and popularized by psychologist Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence is typically broken down into 5 core components. 1. Self-awareness, understanding your emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behavior. 2. Self-regulation, managing your emotions in healthy ways, controlling impulsive feelings, and adapting to changing circumstances. 3. Motivation, harnessing emotions to pursue goals with energy and persistence. 4. Empathy, recognizing and understanding the emotions of others. 5. Social skills, building strong relationships, managing conflict, and inspiring people. These are not soft skills, they are power skills. Emotional intelligence is what allows professionals to communicate without offending, negotiate without posturing, and lead without dominating. The business case for EQ. From Fortune 500 boardrooms to startup brainstorming sessions, EQ isn't optional anymore, it's essential. Research shows that 90% of top performers are also high in emotional intelligence. Why? Because business is ultimately about people, motivating them, influencing them, understanding them. In emotionally charged environments, tight deadlines, demanding clients, high stakes, EQ determines how calmly, clearly, and effectively one can navigate. Consider an IT project manager named Aisha. Technically proficient, she found herself constantly overwhelmed by team friction and client dissatisfaction. It wasn't her programming skills at fault, it was her inability to manage her emotional responses and understand those of her team. After enrolling in an emotional intelligence course, Aisha learned to check her assumptions, pause before reacting, and express concerns constructively. The result? Her team's productivity surged, and her career took a sharp upward turn. Why professionals need emotional intelligence? 1. You are constantly communicating. Whether leading a meeting, writing an email, or navigating office politics, how you say something often matters more than what you say. 2. You work in teams. Emotional intelligence makes collaboration seamless. It builds trust, minimizes conflict, and promotes a culture of psychological safety. 3. You deal with change. The only constant in the modern workplace is change. Those who regulate their emotions adapt more quickly and inspire calm in others. 4. You influence others. Whether you manage a team or pitch ideas, success lies not only in persuasion but in connection, and connection requires emotional acuity. 5. You seek fulfillment. Professionals with high EQ experience less burnout, better work-life balance, and more meaningful careers. Self-check, what's your EQ? Let's begin with a simple exercise. Answer the following with honesty. When criticized, do you immediately defend yourself, or pause and listen? Can you name your top 3 emotional triggers in a work setting? When you're overwhelmed, do you withdraw or seek help? How often do you ask others for feedback on your behavior? When you sense a colleague is stressed, do you acknowledge it or avoid it? These aren't just reflection questions, they're indicators. High emotional intelligence starts with emotional literacy, being able to read, label, and understand what you and others are feeling. You can't manage what you can't identify. Chapter 1, The Power Within, Understanding Emotional Intelligence. Page 2. From Concept to Practice, Real-World Applications of Emotional Intelligence. While the theory of emotional intelligence is compelling, its real power lies in practice. For professionals, it's the application of EQ that distinguishes the average from the extraordinary. Consider these workplace scenarios. Scenario 1, Handling Criticism. Fatima, a senior architect, receives tough feedback from a client in front of her team. Instead of reacting defensively or retreating into silence, she acknowledges the input, thanks the client, and later debriefs with her team to explore improvements. Her composure doesn't just maintain her credibility, it strengthens her leadership. Scenario 2, Conflict between colleagues. Two team leads clash over a shared resource. Rather than allowing the conflict to fester or stepping in with a top-down mandate, their manager, Bilal, brings them together. He facilitates a calm, empathic conversation that reveals their mutual interests. They emerge not only with a solution, but with a renewed respect for each other. That's EQ in action. These examples show that emotional intelligence is not just about being nice, it's about being strategically human. It's what allows professionals to lead effectively, earn trust, resolve tension, and motivate teams under pressure. Traits of emotionally intelligent professionals. If you're wondering how to spot, or become, an emotionally intelligent professional, look for these markers. 1. They pause before reacting. Even under stress, they choose their words carefully. Silence is used not as avoidance but as strategy. 2. They listen more than they speak. Active listening, not just waiting to talk, defines their conversations. 3. They seek feedback and use it wisely. Critique isn't a threat, it's an opportunity. They grow from it. 4. They read the room. They notice when someone is disengaged, stressed, or confused, and they adjust accordingly. 5. They are emotionally honest but respectful. They express concerns, needs, and ideas clearly without being abrasive. Building EQ in the professional world. Developing emotional intelligence is a journey, not a destination. Here are strategies you can begin practicing immediately. Reflect daily. Take 5 minutes each evening to ask yourself, what emotions did I feel today? What triggered them? How did I respond? Could I have responded better? Name it to tame it. Neuroscience shows that simply naming an emotion reduces its power. Practice labeling your feelings accurately. Instead of saying I'm annoyed, consider, I feel overlooked, I feel pressured, or I feel uncertain. Practice the power of pause. When emotionally triggered, take a breath before responding. This single act can transform the tone of meetings, emails, and decisions. Journal to spot patterns. Keep a log of emotional experiences, what provoked them, how you handled them, what you learned. Over time, patterns emerge that guide your self-awareness. Engage in empathy exercises. Regularly ask yourself, what might this person be feeling? What pressures could they be under? This mental shift creates perspective. Solicit honest feedback. Ask a trusted peer or mentor, how do you experience me under pressure? Their insights are gold. EQ is not weakness, it's mastery. A common misconception among professionals, especially in high-stakes industries, is that emotions are distractions. But suppression isn't strength, it's fragility disguised. Mastering emotions doesn't mean ignoring them, it means understanding and using them wisely. Emotionally intelligent professionals don't cry at board meetings, they create cultures where people feel safe to speak, innovate, and belong. They don't avoid hard conversations, they have them with clarity and respect. They don't suppress stress, they channel it into focus. In short, they own their emotions, instead of being owned by them. Your emotional intelligence is your brand. In the professional world, your reputation isn't built only on achievements, it's built on interactions. How do you make people feel? Are you the person others want in the room when things get tough? High emotional intelligence makes you memorable for the right reasons. It's what makes leaders inspirational, colleagues trustworthy, and clients loyal. Closing thoughts. Begin within. As we close this foundational chapter, remember, emotional intelligence is not a trait you either have or don't, it's a skill you build. And it starts now. Begin with yourself. Observe. Reflect. Pause. Choose your responses. Listen deeper. Speak with intent. Feel without fear. Lead with empathy. This is the beginning of a new kind of strength, a quiet, commanding, human strength that reshapes your professional journey. Emotional intelligence isn't a side skill, it's your edge. Chapter 2, Self-Awareness, the Mirror of Success. Page 1. Know thyself. Socrates. In a world that praises action, performance, and results, it might seem odd to suggest that the starting point of excellence lies not in doing, but in knowing yourself. Yet, ask any high-performing professional, respected leader, or trusted mentor about their turning point, and many will trace it back to a moment of deep self-realization. That's the power of self-awareness. Self-awareness is the gateway to emotional intelligence. It is the ability to recognize your emotions, understand their impact, and see how they influence your behavior and decisions. It's about being honest, not just with the world, but with yourself. It's the mirror that reflects who you are, without distortion. Why self-awareness is foundational. Imagine trying to improve a skill without knowing where you stand. Or managing a team when you can't manage your own stress. Self-awareness is what gives context to your strengths and clarity to your blind spots. It's the lens through which you view the world, and the first filter through which the world experiences you. Professionals high in self-awareness possess an inner compass. They know their values, motivations, and emotional triggers. This makes them not only more confident but also more adaptable. They don't get derailed by unexpected criticism, sudden stress, or interpersonal friction. They understand why they feel what they feel, and that knowledge gives them power. Signs you're practicing self-awareness. 1. You recognize emotional patterns. You notice when you tend to become irritated, anxious, or impatient, and you know the root cause. 2. You own your mistakes. You don't deflect blame or over-explain. Instead, you say, "I was wrong," and you mean it. 3. You understand how your mood affects others. You know when you bring tension into a room, and you adjust accordingly. 4. You ask for feedback regularly. Not because you lack confidence, but because you value growth. 5. You can articulate your values and goals. You know what drives you, and what doesn't. 6. You reflect before reacting. You don't just feel, you analyze the feeling before acting on it. A professional lens on self-awareness. Take for example Samir, a senior analyst in a fast-paced corporate firm. During performance reviews, his manager praised his intellect but noted that he often cut others off during meetings. Initially, Samir felt defensive. His intent was to add value, not dominate. But after reflecting, Samir began to observe his behavior. He noticed a pattern. Whenever he felt passionate or under pressure, he rushed to speak. Armed with that insight, Samir set a simple intention before every meeting: pause before speaking. Within weeks, colleagues reported feeling more heard, and team collaboration improved. Samir didn't change his intelligence, he changed his awareness. And that shift amplified his impact. Tools to cultivate self-awareness. 1. Daily emotional check-ins. 3 times a day, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? What caused it? How is it influencing my behavior? 2. Journaling. Each evening, Reflect on moments that triggered strong emotions. Write what happened, how you responded, and what you learned. 3. The why? Ladder. Choose a reaction you had today and ask why. At least 5 times to dig into the root cause. For example, I snapped at my coworker. Why? I felt overwhelmed. Why? I took on too many tasks. Why? I didn't set boundaries. Why? I feared being seen as unhelpful. That's a deep root to reflect on. 4. 360-degree feedback. Ask 3 trusted colleagues, what's it like to work with me when I'm under pressure? What should I do more of, less of, or stop altogether? 5. Mindfulness practice. Even 5 minutes a day of focused breathing or body scans can help build emotional clarity and reduce reactivity. Common self-awareness pitfalls. Confusing feelings with facts. Just because you feel undervalued doesn't mean you are. It's a cue to explore, not an absolute truth. Over-identifying with emotions. I'm angry is not the same as I feel angry. The latter keeps you in the driver's seat. Mistaking confidence for self-awareness. Speaking assertively doesn't mean you understand how you come across. Awareness is deeper. Avoiding feedback. Growth begins where comfort ends. Without feedback, we live in a bubble of our own making. The inner dialogue of the self-aware. The self-aware professional doesn't silence inner voices, they learn to listen to them intelligently. Here's what that inner voice might sound like. That email I sent felt rushed. I need to clarify my tone. I was irritable today. Am I carrying stress from outside work? I notice I feel threatened around her success. Why is that? I want to impress my boss, but not at the cost of authenticity. These reflections aren't signs of weakness. They are the architecture of wisdom. Self-awareness in action, when pressure tests presence. Picture this, Nabila is leading a major product presentation with key investors. Just moments before the meeting, her team informs her that the data projection model has an error that could throw off the financial outlook she's about to present. A wave of panic rises, tight chest, clenched jaw, mind racing. Here, Nabila has a choice. She can let the anxiety hijack her performance, or she can pause and name what she's feeling. I'm anxious because I feel exposed and unprepared. That brief moment of acknowledgement acts like a pressure valve. By understanding her emotion, she regains control of it. She calmly opens the presentation by transparently noting a minor data discrepancy and pivots the focus to strategic vision and market positioning, her strengths. The meeting ends in applause, not because the numbers were perfect, but because her presence was. This is the power of practiced self-awareness. It turns a threat into a leadership moment. Emotional triggers on the heat map. Every professional has emotional triggers, those moments, people, or feedback styles that cause spikes in emotional response. Self-awareness involves mapping these out. Try creating your personal emotional heat map. Hot spots. What situations make you most reactive? E.g., public criticism, being interrupted, unexpected changes trigger people, who tends to bring out strong reactions in you. E.g., dismissive colleagues, micromanaging superiors' response patterns, how do you usually react? E.g., shutdown, overtalk, sarcasm, overcompensate. Once you've identified these, you can start to prepare in advance how to handle such situations more constructively. The link between values and reactions. A deeply underappreciated part of self-awareness is understanding your core values. When your emotional reactions feel disproportionate to the situation, it often means a core value is being challenged. For example, if a comment about your work ethic enrages you, your core value might be integrity. If being left out of a meeting bothers you more than expected, your value might be inclusion or respect. If you bristle at micromanagement, your core value might be autonomy. Knowing your values helps you understand your reactions, and once you understand them, you can respond from intention rather than emotion. Developing a personal EQ dashboard. Think of yourself as the CEO of your inner world. Like any leader, you need a dashboard, a set of key metrics to monitor your emotional health. Consider tracking. Emotional awareness score, daily, did I check in with myself today? Response quality, situational, how well did I manage strong emotions? Clarity of communication, weekly, did I express what I truly meant, or did I filter through stress? Feedback frequency, monthly, have I sought feedback or reflection recently? A dashboard keeps your growth visible and actionable. The courage of self-honesty. One of the bravest acts in professional life is to admit, I was not at my best today. That kind of reflection doesn't diminish your credibility, it builds it. Teams respect leaders who can say, I spoke too fast, I didn't listen fully, or I brought personal frustration into that meeting. Self-awareness creates a culture of psychological safety. When one person models emotional accountability, it invites others to drop the mask of perfection and grow together. Leadership begins inside. Before a leader can lead others, they must lead themselves. Self-awareness is the soil from which all emotional intelligence grows. It grounds confidence, tempers impulsiveness, and nurtures trust. It whispers, you don't have to be perfect, you have to be honest. In client negotiations, board presentations, team conflicts, or performance reviews, it's not always what you know that makes the difference, but how well you know yourself. The calm, clarity, and credibility that self-awareness brings is magnetic. Action step, your mirror moment. Tonight, stand in front of a mirror, not to check your appearance, but your alignment. Ask yourself, what emotion dominated my day today? Did I act in alignment with who I want to be? What did I learn about myself today? This small daily ritual is a game changer. Not because it fixes everything, but because it keeps you anchored. Remember, the most powerful professionals are not those who never falter, but those who are deeply aware of their fallibility and use it as fuel for progress. Self-awareness doesn't make you perfect. It makes you present. And in today's distracted world, that's a superpower. Chapter 3, Self-Regulation, Steering the Emotional Ship. Imagine being in the middle of a high-stakes meeting. Tension is thick, timelines are tight, and you've just been blindsided by a misleading accusation about your work. Your heart rate surges, a flush rises to your face, and your instinct is to fire back, to defend, to retaliate. But then, you pause. That pause? That's self-regulation. And that pause is power. Self-regulation is the second pillar of emotional intelligence. If self-awareness is the act of recognizing your emotional weather, self-regulation is knowing how to respond, without letting the storm control your ship. It's the bridge between emotion and action, between reaction and reflection. Why self-regulation matters in the professional world. In the workplace, emotions are not only common, they're inevitable. But the ability to manage those emotions determines whether you lead with influence or lose credibility. Self-regulation empowers you to stay calm under pressure. Avoid rash decisions. Handle criticism gracefully. Navigate conflict with clarity. Communicate assertively, not aggressively. In short, self-regulation is the engine of professional composure. What self-regulation is not? Let's clear up a few misconceptions. Self-regulation does not mean suppressing emotions, pretending everything is fine, avoiding hard conversations, being emotionally robotic. True self-regulation is about processing emotions, not ignoring them. It's about managing your responses so they align with your values and goals, even in emotionally charged moments. The anatomy of an emotional reaction. To regulate your emotions, you first need to understand what's happening inside you. Here's how a typical emotional trigger unfolds. 1. Stimulus, something happens, e.g., someone interrupts you. 2. Perception, you interpret it, e.g., they don't respect me. 3. Emotion, you feel something, e.g., anger. 4. Impulse, you want to act, e.g., snap back. 5. Response, you choose an action, e.g., remain calm and clarify. Techniques for mastering self-regulation. 1. The 10-second rule. When emotions spike, give yourself a mental 10 count. This short circuit breaks the automatic chain of reaction. 2. Name it, claim it, tame it. Name, identify the emotion, e.g., I'm frustrated. Claim, acknowledge it without shame, this is my feeling. Tame, choose how to express it constructively, I'll raise my concern after this meeting. 3. Reframe the narrative. Instead of he's challenging me, try he's passionate about his point. Instead of they ignored me, try they may be distracted. Reframing neutralizes threat. 4. Change the channel. When emotional buildup is overwhelming, shift gears. Walk away. Breathe. Journal. Return with a clear head. 5. Set boundaries proactively. Regulating emotions is easier when your environment supports it. Protect your time, say no when needed, and structure your workday to minimize known stressors. 6. Develop a recovery ritual. Everyone loses emotional control sometimes. What matters is how quickly and how well you recover. Maybe it's taking a walk, talking to a mentor, or journaling lessons learned. Case example, the power of restraint. Faraz, a client relations executive, found himself often reacting sharply to customer complaints, especially when he felt they were unfair. His performance was technically sound, but his colleagues and clients found him intimidating. After coaching, Faraz began practicing what he called verbal deep breathing. Whenever faced with criticism, he would take one silent breath and mentally say, pause. Listen. Ask. Then speak. In 6 months, not only did his client retention rate soar, but he also reported feeling less stress and more satisfaction at work. The lesson? Self-regulation didn't dull his edge, it sharpened his impact. The leadership angle. For leaders, self-regulation is essential. Teams model the emotional tone set by those in charge. A leader who panics spreads panic. A leader who stays composed under pressure signals confidence and control. Leadership is not about avoiding storms, it's about navigating them with steadiness. Common emotional traps to avoid. 1. The resentment loop. Replaying slights in your head over and over. Solution, express or release, but don't stew. 2. The martyr complex. Constantly suppressing your emotions to keep the peace until you explode. Solution, regular check-ins with yourself. 3. The one-strike reaction. Letting one bad moment derail an entire day. Solution, practice emotional reset rituals. 4. The ego outburst. Reacting with pride rather than purpose. Solution, ask, what's my goal here? Your emotional tone is your signature. People may forget your exact words or actions, but they will remember how you made them feel, especially in difficult moments. Self-regulation ensures that your emotional legacy is one of strength, not volatility. Emotional control versus emotional wisdom. It's important to understand that emotional control and emotional wisdom are not the same. Control implies suppression, pushing feelings down until they implode. Wisdom, however, is about awareness, acknowledgement, and constructive action. Emotional wisdom is when a professional feels disappointment and says, "This didn't go how I hoped. Let me process it and figure out my next step," rather than internalizing failure or lashing out. It's knowing that your emotions are signals, not instructions. Building your emotional operating system. To strengthen your self-regulation, it's helpful to build a simple, personalized emotional operating system. Think of this as your emotional framework under pressure. Here's an example to build your own. Baseline state. Identify what calm and focus feel like for you. Breathing is steady, tone is measured, thoughts are clear. Triggers. Know your top 5 triggers. What situations routinely challenge your composure? Patterns. Recognize your reaction habits. Do you get defensive, passive, or explosive? Interruption tools. Develop tools that help pause the spiral, breathing, stepping out, grounding statements like "I'm not my emotion." Reset rituals. Build in rituals to restore emotional equilibrium. Listening to music, brief meditation, a trusted conversation. This operating system doesn't eliminate emotion, it empowers you to navigate it. The role of physical habits in emotional regulation. Emotional regulation isn't just mental, it's physiological. The body and brain are in constant dialogue. When your physical state is depleted, emotional stability is harder to maintain. Sleep. Lack of sleep reduces emotional resilience. Prioritize rest like a high-level strategy. It is one. Exercise. Movement disperses emotional tension. Even 10 minutes of walking can shift your state. Nutrition. Blood sugar crashes often mimic emotional volatility. Fuel wisely. Breathwork. Deep, intentional breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting calm. Professional success isn't just in what you know, it's in how well your mind and body function together under pressure. From reactivity to response, rewiring the brain. Neuroscientists refer to the brain's fight or flight system, governed by the amygdala. When we perceive a threat, emotional or physical, the amygdala fires first. If we're not conscious of this, we react impulsively. But here's the good news, the brain can be trained. Through practices like mindfulness, journaling, and cognitive reframing, we strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and long-term planning. Regular training of self-regulation literally rewires your brain toward calm, clarity, and control. The professional advantage. When professionals practice self-regulation consistently, their emotional energy becomes a resource, not a liability. They resolve conflicts with grace, gain the trust of colleagues, build resilient, loyal teams, make clear decisions under pressure, avoid unnecessary stress escalation. Their emotional presence becomes a strategic asset. Case reflection, the executive pause. Sarah, a vice president in a multinational company, once had a reputation for abrupt decisions and emotional volatility. After a key project failed and her team morale tanked, she began working with an executive coach. Her first task, implement a daily executive pause. Before every major interaction or email, she asked herself, "What am I feeling? Why? What's the best way to respond that aligns with who I want to be as a leader?" This pause shifted her leadership style from reactive to intentional. She didn't just regulate her behavior, she elevated her presence. Self-regulation is a daily discipline. Like a muscle, self-regulation strengthens with use and atrophies with neglect. Build it into your routines. Morning, set emotional intentions, e.g., today I will be composed and clear. Midday, check in, e.g., how am I feeling? Do I need a reset? Evening, reflect, e.g., where did I stay calm? Where did I slip? Discipline builds emotional maturity. Maturity builds influence. The ripple effect of emotional discipline. One regulated professional can stabilize an entire room. Their calm becomes contagious. Their reactions, or lack thereof, model emotional safety. When you regulate yourself, you empower others. You set a tone where dialogue thrives, feedback feels safe, and innovation takes root. You show others, it's possible to feel everything and still act with wisdom. Chapter 4, Motivation, the Inner Drive to Excel. People often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing, that's why we recommend it daily. Zig Ziglar. In every thriving professional, beneath the layers of competence and confidence, beats a quiet yet potent engine, motivation. It's the fuel that propels action, sustains effort, and drives ambition. Without it, talent is underutilized, goals fade, and potential remains dormant. Motivation isn't a fleeting mood, it's an enduring force. And in the realm of emotional intelligence, it is the engine room of excellence. Professionals often chase productivity hacks, time management strategies, and external rewards, but overlook this core question, what drives me from within? That answer, your inner compass, is the real secret to sustained performance. Intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Motivation can be divided into two categories. Extrinsic motivation, driven by external rewards, money, titles, praise, recognition. Intrinsic motivation, driven by internal rewards, purpose, growth, fulfillment, passion. Both have a place. But intrinsic motivation is what keeps you moving when the applause fades, the incentives dry up, and the challenges intensify. A professional driven solely by salary will do the job. A professional driven by meaning will master the job. Why motivation is a core EQ component. Emotionally intelligent individuals don't wait for inspiration, they generate it. Their motivation is rooted in clarity. They know why they do what they do. They set goals aligned with their values. They persist through setbacks without losing heart. They channel their emotions into productive energy. Motivation, in this sense, is emotional discipline applied over time. The power of purpose. Purpose is not a luxury, it's a performance enhancer. Studies show that professionals who feel a strong sense of purpose are more engaged, more resilient under stress, more innovative, less likely to burn out. When you wake up knowing your work matters, motivation is automatic. The challenge isn't always doing the work, it's remembering why the work matters. Questions to discover your motivation DNA. 1. What part of your work excites you the most? 2. When do you feel most alive in your role? 3. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? 4. What problem in your industry are you most passionate about solving? 5. Who benefits from your success, and how? These aren't fluffy questions, they're mirrors. The answers reflect your inner driver. Case story, when motivation survives setback. Adil was a marketing manager who had just been passed over for a promotion. Frustrated and disillusioned, he considered quitting. But during a coaching session, he revisited his why, to use storytelling to help brands find their voice and make a difference. That reminder didn't erase the setback, but it reframed it. Adil stayed, evolved, and began mentoring others. 2 years later, he was promoted, not because he didn't face failure, but because his motivation was bigger than a title. Goal setting through an EQ lens. Emotionally intelligent professionals don't just set goals, they set emotionally resonant goals. These are goals that inspire action because they are rooted in personal values, not borrowed ambitions. Use the P-O-W-E-R framework. Purpose, why does this goal matter to me? Ownership, is this my goal, or someone else's expectation? Willingness, am I truly committed? Emotion, how will achieving this make me feel? Resilience, what will keep me going when it gets hard? When a goal is aligned emotionally, it becomes magnetic. Daily habits of motivated professionals. 1. Morning intention setting. Start your day by stating your mission or top emotional priority. 2. Visualization. Picture success, not just the outcome, but the effort. Imagine yourself enjoying the process, not just the prize. 3. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Emotionally intelligent people find joy in progress, even if it's small. Motivation thrives on movement. 4. Fuel passion projects. Even if unrelated to your core job, maintain a project that lights you up. It keeps the flame of purpose alive. 5. Surround yourself with purpose-driven people. Motivation is contagious. Spend time with others who operate from depth. Mindset, the foundation of motivation. Professionals with strong motivation operate with a growth mindset. They believe skills can be developed. Effort trumps entitlement. Setbacks are feedback, not failure. Success is a journey, not a static destination. This mindset fuels perseverance, creativity, and emotional strength. Motivation versus burnout. Ironically, High motivation can also lead to burnout if not balanced. That's why emotionally intelligent professionals set boundaries to protect their energy. Schedule time for rest and renewal. Monitor emotional signs of fatigue. Redefine success beyond busyness. True motivation is sustainable, not sacrificial. Turning emotions into fuel. Emotions aren't obstacles to motivation, they're its most powerful resource. High emotional intelligence means you can channel emotion into momentum. Here's how emotionally intelligent professionals transform emotional states into focused drive. Frustration fuel. Why am I irritated? What does this reveal about what I care about? How can I turn this energy into improvement? Disappointment direction. What didn't work? What does this failure teach me about where I need to grow? Joy jet fuel. What gave me this feeling of fulfillment today? How can I build more of that into my work? Fear focus. What's causing this anxiety? What action can I take to gain back a sense of control? Emotionally intelligent motivation is about owning your emotional state and using it, not being used by it. Creating a motivation environment. Motivation thrives in the right environment. Professionals who are intentional about their physical and emotional surroundings maintain higher drive over time. Workspace design. A clear, inspiring workspace with reminders of purpose, vision boards, quotes, meaningful objects, can anchor motivation. People proximity. Spend time with growth-oriented, encouraging peers. Their energy feeds your motivation. Energy management. Understand your peak performance hours. Align your most meaningful tasks with those windows. Digital boundaries. Limit exposure to emotional drains, unnecessary news, toxic social media, draining group chats. Success is not only about what you do, but also what you protect yourself from while doing it. Aligning tasks with passion zones. Not every task at work will be inspiring. But emotionally intelligent professionals learn to connect even mundane responsibilities to their larger mission. For example, a project report may feel dull, but reframed as part of a strategy to improve team efficiency or client experience, it gains emotional relevance. That emotional relevance is the heartbeat of sustainable motivation. Try using the 3 Why rule. Ask, why is this task important? 3 times, drilling deeper each time. Task, preparing a monthly report. Why 1, it's required by leadership. Why 2, they use it to make decisions. Why 3, my clarity helps shape the direction of the department. Now, the task isn't just a report, it's a lever of influence. Case study, from routine to radiance. Zoya, a medical researcher, loved science but felt disengaged from the repetitive data work her role required. Every day began to feel the same, gray, transactional, draining. Then, during a mindfulness workshop, she was asked to write her work legacy statement. She wrote, "I help the world heal through precision, patience, and purpose." She printed it and taped it to her desk. Every day she read it before starting. Slowly, her attitude shifted. Her motivation wasn't in the task, it was in the impact. 6 months later, she led a breakthrough analysis that put her on a global research panel. Motivation lies not in what we do, but in why we do it, and how we remind ourselves of that. Handling motivation dips. Even the most emotionally intelligent professionals hit lows. The key isn't avoiding dips, it's how quickly and healthily you bounce back. Normalize it. Motivation isn't a straight line. Flat days are part of the process. Adjust expectations. Sometimes lack of motivation is a sign your expectations are unrealistic or misaligned. Revisit vision. Go back to your vision statement. Remind yourself who you are working to become. Engage with others. Ask a peer what inspires them. Passion is often reignited in conversation. Shift the focus. Do something generous. Mentor, support, contribute. Purpose returns in service. Motivation is a relationship. You must nurture it, not just expect it to perform. Leading with motivation. Motivated professionals make powerful leaders, not because they are always energized, but because they model purpose. Their presence inspires. Their focus stabilizes. Their resilience is contagious. Here's what emotionally intelligent leaders do to motivate others. They tell stories that connect daily work to a larger mission. They celebrate small wins and highlight effort, not just results. They ask about team members' goals, and help them grow. They stay emotionally available, showing that motivation isn't about hype, but honesty. Closing thought: motivation is meaning in motion. In the end, emotionally intelligent professionals don't just move fast, they move meaningfully. And that makes all the difference. Chapter 5, Empathy, Connecting Beyond Words. Empathy is often mistaken as a soft, sentimental skill. But in the world of high-performance leadership and professional impact, empathy is a strategic advantage. It's the bridge between intention and influence, between speaking and truly being heard. Empathy doesn't just connect us to others, it connects us to better outcomes. In the language of emotional intelligence, empathy is the ability to recognize, understand, and respond to the emotions of others. It's seeing the world through someone else's eyes, hearing with their ears, and most importantly, feeling with their heart. While intelligence wins arguments, empathy wins people. And in any field, that's the real currency of success. The forms of empathy. There are different types of empathy, each critical in different professional contexts. 1. Cognitive empathy, understanding how another person thinks. I get why you see it that way. 2. Emotional empathy, feeling what another person feels. I can sense your frustration. 3. Compassionate empathy, a blend of both, coupled with a desire to help. I understand, I feel with you, and I want to support you. While cognitive empathy is crucial in negotiations and leadership, emotional and compassionate empathy are vital in conflict resolution, mentoring, and team cohesion. Why empathy is a professional power skill. Empathy might seem soft, but it yields hard results. Here's what it produces in the workplace. Stronger relationships with colleagues and clients. Deeper trust, which accelerates collaboration. Faster conflict resolution, reducing emotional friction. More inclusive leadership, leading to engaged, loyal teams. Better customer service, by addressing real needs, not just transactions. Empathy is what turns a manager into a mentor, a coworker into a teammate, and a company into a community. Case study: the client who didn't need a discount. Adil, a sales consultant, had a client ready to walk away from a 6-month partnership. Instead of jumping into persuasion mode or offering discounts, he simply asked, "Can I understand what's changed on your end?" The client side opened up about internal restructuring, emotional fatigue, and stress. Adil listened, not to counter, but to comprehend. At the end, he said, "I'm here to help you make the best decision for your team. If now isn't the time, I understand." The client paused. "You're the first person who hasn't tried to push me. That alone makes me want to stay." They renewed for another year. Empathy doesn't always close deals, but it always opens doors. How to practice active empathy. 1. Listen with your full self. Close your laptop. Silence your phone. Make eye contact. Listening is empathy in action. 2. Label the emotion. Reflect back what you hear. That sounds frustrating. I can imagine that was overwhelming. 3. Ask deeper questions instead of "Why did you do that?" Try "What was going through your mind?" instead of "What happened?" Try "What did that feel like for you?" 4. Watch for nonverbal cues. Often, what people don't say is more important than what they do. Tone, pace, body language. Empathy listens with the eyes, too. 5. Hold space without solving. Sometimes empathy isn't fixing, it's witnessing. Simply being present with someone's emotion is healing. Common empathy roadblocks in professionals: the fix-it reflex, jumping into problem-solving mode instead of listening. Emotional bypass, offering logical explanations to avoid sitting with discomfort. At least you still have your job instead of "That sounds really hard." Projection, assuming others feel what you would in their shoes. True empathy asks, not assumes. Distraction, listening while multitasking. Empathy demands full presence. Empathy and leadership. The best leaders are not those who command attention, but those who give it. Consider Sarah, a product director known for her fierce intellect but low team morale. She began implementing weekly one-on-ones where she asked a single question, "How are you, really?" To her surprise, productivity rose, conflicts decreased, and innovation soared. People didn't need their hands held, they just needed their humanity seen. Empathy doesn't dilute strength. It defines it. Empathy in conflict, the game changer. Conflict is inevitable in any professional setting. Deadlines, differing opinions, diverse personalities, all collide. But empathy is what turns conflict from confrontation into collaboration. Let's explore a real-world scenario. Two department heads, Hassan and Saira, were at odds over shared resources. Meetings escalated quickly into defensive exchanges. Each felt misunderstood and unsupported. A mediator introduced a simple exercise. Before each could argue their case, they had to summarize the other's position to that person's satisfaction. Suddenly, the tone shifted. Hassan said, "What I hear is that Saira is trying to meet increasing client demands with limited staff, and she's worried this will hurt service quality." Saira nodded. Then, she mirrored his stress over operational bottlenecks. Understanding didn't dissolve the disagreement, but it diffused the tension. Solutions emerged naturally once both sides felt heard. Empathy doesn't end conflict, it transforms how it's managed. Building an empathetic culture in the workplace. Empathy should not be relegated to HR programs or wellness weeks. It must be embedded in the organizational fabric. Here's how leaders can cultivate it. 1. Model it. Leaders must show vulnerability, listen deeply, and respond with humanity. 2. Normalize emotion. Create space for employees to express stress, overwhelm, or excitement without judgment. 3. Teach active listening. Make it a part of onboarding and team development. 4. Reward empathy. Recognize not just performance, but how people make others feel. 5. Use empathy in feedback. Focus on understanding the person, not just correcting behavior. Empathetic workplaces outperform others because they are human-centered. People thrive where they feel seen. Empathy in client and customer relations? Empathy isn't just an internal tool, it's a customer magnet. Clients remember not just what you delivered, but how you made them feel during the process. In customer-facing roles, emotionally intelligent professionals don't say, "That's not our policy." They say, "I hear your concern, let's see what we can do." They don't say, "You misunderstood." They say, "Let me try explaining that another way." Empathy creates loyalty, not because the product is perfect, but because the relationship is. Exercises to strengthen empathy. 1. Empathy journaling. Each day, write one instance where you could have been more empathetic. What might the other person have been feeling? 2. The step-in technique. Before a meeting or difficult conversation, take 60 seconds to imagine the other person's emotional state. Ask, what might they be hoping for? Fearing? Needing? 3. The 5-minute mirror. At the end of each workday, reflect, who did I uplift today? Did I miss anyone's emotional cues? Where could I have listened more fully? These habits don't just boost empathy, they elevate your presence. Empathy and emotional boundaries. Being empathetic doesn't mean absorbing everyone's emotions. Emotional intelligence includes discernment, understanding someone's pain without being consumed by it. Practice these guardrails. Compassion, not rescue. Be supportive without taking on the problem as yours to fix. Emotional detachment, not indifference. Care deeply while maintaining your center. Say I hear you, not I'll handle it all. Support without sacrificing yourself. Empathy with boundaries is called wisdom. It's sustainable, responsible, and authentic. The professional payoff of empathy. Trusted influence, people gravitate toward those who get them. Team harmony, tension dissipates when everyone feels heard. Innovation, psychological safety, a product of empathy, is the bedrock of creativity. Leadership elevation, empathetic leaders are respected not just for strategy, but for humanity. Personal fulfillment, empathy enriches not just work, but life. Final reflection, the empathy echo. Every act of empathy creates a ripple. A listening ear makes someone feel valued. A kind response in a tense moment changes someone's day. A thoughtful pause in a heated exchange can heal a relationship. In a world racing to produce, fix, and compete, empathy reminds us to connect. To feel with, not just speak at. To understand before judging. To be human first, professional second. And in doing so, we don't lose productivity, we gain meaning. Chapter 6, Social Skills, Navigating the Professional Landscape. In the professional world, it's rarely the lone genius who changes the game, it's the one who connects, collaborates, and communicates with purpose. No matter how technically brilliant or intellectually sharp a person is, the ability to build rapport, lead with clarity, and influence with integrity is what ultimately determines their success. These are not nice-to-have talents, they are critical professional tools. They are the social arm of emotional intelligence, known simply as social skills. At its core, social skill is the art of managing relationships. It's how we inspire teams, diffuse tension, hold hard conversations, and build bridges across diverse personalities. For leaders, it's the ability to rally others behind a vision. For collaborators, it's creating synergy. For service professionals, it's trust. No matter your role, social skills are the hidden engine behind career acceleration. The components of strong social skills. Emotionally intelligent social skills include 1. Effective communication, the ability to express ideas clearly, listen actively, and adapt your style to your audience. 2. Conflict management, addressing tension directly, constructively, and calmly. 3. Influence, guiding others' perspectives or decisions with respect and clarity. 4. Team building, creating connection, trust, and collaboration across individuals. 5. Collaboration, sharing space, ideas, and credit while seeking mutual success. 6. Change management, helping others transition and grow in evolving environments. Together, these create the framework for navigating professional relationships with grace and power. Why social skills matter more than ever. In a world of automation and artificial intelligence, the human edge lies in communication and connection. Research consistently shows that the most successful professionals are not just the smartest, they're the most socially agile. Social skill is what wins client trust during high-stakes pitches, maintains team morale during change, negotiates without manipulation, coaches with empathy and clarity, speaks truth to power, respectfully. And perhaps most importantly, it's what ensures that people want to work with you again. The professional listening superpower. It's easy to assume social skill begins with talking. But in truth, it begins with listening, active, engaged, ego-free listening. Here's how emotionally intelligent professionals listen. They listen to understand, not reply. They withhold judgment. They show presence through posture, eye contact, and silence. They clarify rather than assume. So what I'm hearing is, listening isn't passive, it's a strategic act of connection. It builds trust faster than any resume ever could. Small social habits, big professional wins. 1. Use names often. It makes conversations personal and shows respect. 2. Give eye contact, not screen time. Looking up communicates care more than 1,000 words. 3. Master the art of the check-in. How's this week treating you? Isn't small talk, it's an invitation. 4. Practice the compliment sandwich. Deliver feedback by wrapping critique between two genuine positives. It preserves dignity and invites change. 5. Always follow up after meetings or support moments. A quick note, let me know how that turned out cements connection. Case study, from Lone Star to Team Anchor. Samir was known as the go-to technical wizard on his software team, but he often worked in isolation. He'd email rather than walk over. He preferred solving issues alone rather than discussing problems in meetings. When a company reorganization forced more cross-functional projects, Samir struggled. Deadlines slipped. Misunderstandings grew. It wasn't lack of talent, it was lack of social integration. With coaching, Samir began initiating weekly check-ins, asking teammates for input, and summarizing discussions aloud in meetings to clarify alignment. His team responded quickly. Collaboration improved. So did delivery time. The shift didn't require him to become extroverted. It required him to become engaged. The power of presence. Professionals who demonstrate strong social skills often have a quality that's hard to quantify but easy to feel: presence. They walk into a room and bring calm. They speak, and people lean in. Their words don't just fill silence, they create focus. This isn't about charisma or theatrics. It's about being emotionally present and socially attuned. Presence is built through authenticity, speaking truthfully, without masks or rehearsed personas. Clarity, expressing thoughts with precision, not jargon. Empathy, reading the emotional current of a room and responding with care. Confidence, standing grounded in both body language and tone. Presence says, I see you. I hear you. I'm here with you. And that, in a distracted world, is a rare gift. Influence without authority. One of the most valuable social skills in the workplace is the ability to influence without relying on position or power. Influence isn't about manipulation, it's about inspiration and alignment. Professionals who influence effectively frame ideas in terms of shared goals. This approach helps us all deliver faster, not just my team. Use stories and examples. Narratives create resonance more than spreadsheets. Ask before arguing. Can I offer another angle? Invites openness, not opposition. Practice patience. Influence is a slow burn, not a flash fire. It's earned over time through consistency, reliability, and emotional trust. Managing emotions in social interactions. Even the most skilled communicators face emotional moments, misunderstandings, passive aggression, disagreements. The key isn't to avoid these moments, but to navigate them with grace. Emotionally intelligent responses include: let me think about that before I respond. Can you help me understand your thinking here? I hear you, and I also see it a bit differently. It seems like we're both passionate. Can we find the shared concern? These phrases de-escalate tension without avoiding truth. Networking with emotional intelligence. Networking can feel transactional or awkward, unless it's approached as an exercise in genuine relationship building. Emotionally intelligent professionals network not to get, but to connect. They ask questions more than they talk about themselves. Remember personal details, birthdays, interests, life updates. Follow up without an agenda. Offer help before seeking it. See everyone, regardless of status, as worth knowing. Networking with social skill transforms it from small talk into meaningful dialogue. Building inclusive social spaces. True social skill includes the ability to make everyone feel they belong. Inclusivity isn't just about policies, it's about moments, inviting a quiet team member to share thoughts. Using inclusive language, we instead of you people. Acknowledging different communication styles and adapting. The emotionally intelligent professional knows that the quietest voice may carry the biggest idea, and create space to hear it. The courageous conversation. One of the highest levels of social skill is being able to have courageous conversations, those that are necessary but uncomfortable. Whether it's giving feedback, addressing disrespect, or confronting inconsistency, these moments require preparation. Know what you want to say and how you'll say it. Empathy, consider the other person's perspective and emotional state. Timing, choose the right moment and environment. Clarity, be direct without being harsh. Compassion, deliver truth with care. Avoiding tough conversations damages trust. Having them with emotional intelligence builds it. Case snapshot, the difficult client. Ariba, a communications director, was handling a particularly volatile client known for abrupt emails and shifting demands. Most of her team dreaded interactions with him. Rather than reacting emotionally or matching his tone, Ariba began mirroring his core concerns. "You're clearly committed to speed and precision. I respect that," then gently guided him to more realistic timelines by proposing options. Her ability to connect before correcting transformed the dynamic. Eventually, he became one of their most loyal clients. The team learned that assertiveness with empathy is not weakness, it's mastery. Final reflection, social skills create sustainable success. In the world of business, deals come and go, technologies evolve, and roles change, but relationships remain. The way you make people feel, the space you create in conversations, and the respect you show in disagreement, these are your professional fingerprints. Social skill isn't about being liked, it's about being respected, trusted, and remembered. Mastering it means mastering your influence. And in a world that moves fast, professionals with refined social intelligence will always move further. Chapter 7, Emotional Intelligence in Leadership. Leadership isn't a job title, it's an emotional art. It's the capacity to inspire, guide, challenge, and serve others with integrity and clarity. And in today's evolving, fast-paced world, leadership isn't just about having the right strategy, it's about embodying the right emotional energy. At the heart of effective leadership lies emotional intelligence, EQ. Leaders with high EQ don't just direct teams, they connect with them. They don't simply manage performance, they unlock potential. EQ-based leadership recognizes that before people follow a vision, they follow a leader they trust, and trust is emotional. The shift from command to connection. Old school leadership relied on hierarchy, directives from the top, obedience from the bottom. But modern leadership is relational. Teams don't want to be managed, they want to be seen, heard, and valued. That means today's leaders must master emotional awareness, reading the room and the individuals in it. Empathy, understanding challenges without judgment. Self-regulation, modeling calm during crises. Motivation, inspiring others with purpose and presence. Social skill, building bridges, not walls. These are not optional, they are essential. What EQ looks like in leadership. Imagine two leaders responding to a failed product launch. Leader A immediately criticizes the team, micromanages the recovery, and issues vague threats about performance reviews. Leader B gathers the team, acknowledges the disappointment, takes accountability where needed, then asks, "What can we learn from this? How do we come back stronger?" Which leader do you want to follow? The second leader isn't softer, they're smarter. Their emotional intelligence isn't about being nice, it's about being constructive, calm, and committed. The 5 EQ pillars applied to leadership. 1. Self-awareness. Emotionally intelligent leaders know their triggers, blind spots, and impact. They regularly ask, "How am I showing up today?" 2. Self-regulation. They model poise and emotional control. Even under pressure, they respond, not react. 3. Motivation. They are purpose-driven and pass that drive to their teams. Their enthusiasm is grounded and contagious. 4. Empathy. They connect on a human level. They understand when a team member is struggling or disengaged and respond with curiosity, not judgment. 5. Social skills. They resolve conflict diplomatically, lead meetings with clarity, and foster collaboration across silos. When these traits come together, leadership becomes more than a role, it becomes a force. Case story. Leading through uncertainty. Raheel, a senior director at a logistics firm, faced a sudden market disruption that forced layoffs and resource cuts. Morale plummeted. His peers leaned into control, longer meetings, tighter supervision, performance ultimatums. But Raheel took another path. He held small group listening sessions. He openly admitted his own fears and uncertainties. He shared the rationale behind decisions with transparency. He emphasized what they could control. The result? His team remained stable, engaged, and ultimately helped the company pivot more successfully than any other division. In moments of uncertainty, people don't just need direction, they need emotional grounding. That's EQ leadership. Emotionally intelligent communication. One of the most powerful tools a leader has is communication. But emotionally intelligent leaders communicate not just to inform, but to connect and empower. They use clarity, here's what's happening, and here's why. Transparency, I want to share what I know, even if it's not perfect. Inclusion, what's your take on this? Affirmation, I appreciate how you handled that. Curiosity, help me understand your concern better. Great communication isn't long-winded, it's attuned. Building trust through emotional integrity. Trust is the currency of leadership, and emotional integrity is its source. Emotionally intelligent leaders don't wear masks. They don't say one thing and do another. They don't promise empathy and then punish vulnerability. Their consistency builds psychological safety. Trust-building habits include following through on commitments, no matter how small. Admitting mistakes without defensiveness. Being emotionally present, especially during one-on-one conversations. Celebrating contributions instead of just results. Being open about uncertainty, rather than pretending to have all the answers. These leaders don't lead through perfection, they lead through authenticity. Coaching instead of commanding. Modern leadership isn't about issuing orders, it's about asking questions, guiding reflection, and encouraging autonomy. Leaders with high EQ act more like coaches than commanders. They ask, what's your perspective on this situation? What support would help you move forward? What did you learn from that outcome? How would you approach this differently next time? By empowering their teams to think and grow, they don't just get results, they develop people. Navigating team dynamics with EQ. High EQ leaders don't just lead individuals, they manage group energy. They understand how team morale, collaboration, and trust fluctuate, and they step in with intentionally. They watch for withdrawing voices. I noticed you were quiet in today's meeting. Want to share your thoughts now? Rising tension. It seems we're stuck. Let's pause and hear from each person. Emotional contagion. Addressing one person's stress before it affects the group. Invisible effort. I saw the hours you put in last week. It didn't go unnoticed. They create teams that don't just function, but thrive. Emotionally intelligent decision-making. While logic is essential in leadership, emotionally intelligent leaders factor in people impact when making decisions. Before executing, they ask, who will this affect emotionally? How can I communicate this with empathy? What support will people need to adapt? Is this aligned with our team's values? This doesn't slow down decision-making, it strengthens it. When people feel considered, they commit more fully to the path ahead. Leading remote and hybrid teams with EQ. In today's increasingly digital workplace, emotional intelligence is more important than ever. Without face-to-face cues, EQ helps leaders bridge distance with presence. Practical EQ strategies include intentional check-ins. How are you really doing this week? Using tone-sensitive language in messages, scheduling video calls for emotionally complex topics, recognizing contributions publicly, even in virtual meetings, making space for informal moments, like virtual coffee chats. Remote leadership isn't about screen time, it's about emotional connection despite the screen. Self-care is a leadership responsibility. Emotionally intelligent leaders know that they must regulate themselves before they can regulate a team. Leadership can be emotionally taxing, and burnout leads to reactive, inconsistent leadership. High EQ leaders. Build recovery rituals, exercise, silence, reflection. Seek feedback regularly. Practice mindfulness to stay grounded. Own their emotional needs without shame. Model healthy boundaries for their teams. They understand that sustainable leadership starts with personal emotional sustainability. Case study, from manager to mentor. Maria was a high-performing operations manager, efficient, results-driven, but distant. Her team met goals but showed signs of fatigue and disengagement. Turnover began to rise. After attending an EQ-focused leadership workshop, Maria began to shift. She started holding weekly pulse meetings, not to discuss KPIs, but to ask, "How's everyone doing? What's one thing we can improve together?" She started sharing small stories about her own challenges and mistakes. She asked her team what support looked like to them, not just what they needed to deliver. Within 6 months, her team's performance rose. More importantly, so did engagement scores and retention. Maria didn't lose her edge, she added emotional presence to it. Final reflection, emotional intelligence creates legacy. Leadership leaves a ripple. People may forget what a leader built or achieved, but they never forget how that leader made them feel. Emotionally intelligent leaders create legacies not just of performance, but of possibility. They light fires of self-belief in others. They create cultures of trust. They lead with power, but also with presence. EQ isn't the opposite of leadership strength, it's what elevates it. Chapter 8, Building Resilient Teams Through Emotional Intelligence. Behind every successful organization is not just talent, it's team resilience. It's the ability of a group to face pressure, adapt to change, and still function with energy, optimism, and clarity. And while strategy, roles, and resources matter, nothing strengthens a team more than shared emotional intelligence. Teams are more than collections of individual competencies, they're emotional ecosystems. They thrive when members feel safe, connected, understood, and inspired. Emotional intelligence is the soil in which trust grows, conflicts get resolved, and collaboration becomes natural. Resilient teams don't avoid tension, they manage it constructively. They don't just execute, they reflect, regroup, and regenerate. And emotionally intelligent leaders are the architects of that culture. What makes a team resilient? Resilient teams exhibit a few core traits. 1. Psychological safety. Members feel safe to express ideas, admit mistakes, and ask questions without fear of ridicule or reprisal. 2. Trust. Individuals believe in each other's intentions, skills, and integrity. 3. Constructive conflict. Disagreements are handled openly and respectfully. 4. Shared purpose. Everyone knows why their work matters and how it fits into the larger mission. 5. Adaptability. The team adjusts quickly to change without unraveling. 6. Emotional recovery. After setbacks, the team recenters and refocuses rather than spiraling. These don't happen by accident, they're cultivated through emotionally intelligent leadership and habits. The EQ blueprint for team building. Emotionally intelligent teams are created, not inherited. Here's how leaders foster that environment. 1. Set emotional norms early. At the team's formation or onboarding stage, discuss emotional expectations. How do we handle mistakes? How do we give and receive feedback? How do we raise concerns? What behaviors are unacceptable, even under pressure? Documenting these norms makes emotions part of the team culture, not a taboo. 2. Model vulnerability as strength. A leader's emotional tone sets the group's emotional bandwidth. When a leader says, "I missed something today," or "I struggled with that change too," it tells others it's safe to be human. Vulnerability isn't oversharing, it's openness with purpose. It creates space for others to show up fully. 3. Celebrate effort, not just outcome. In resilient teams, success is defined not only by results but by process. Celebrate. Collaboration. Creativity. Risk-taking. Emotional growth. Supportive behavior. This creates emotional equity and reduces burnout from perfectionism. 4. Normalize emotional conversations. Include check-ins like, what's one word that describes how you're feeling today? What support do you need this week? What's one thing we're not talking about that we should be? These questions signal that emotions aren't distractions, they're data. 5. Manage conflict as growth, not threat. In high EQ teams, conflict isn't feared, it's framed as feedback. Leaders teach team members to say, "Can I share a concern respectfully? I see it differently, can I explain why? What I heard isn't what I meant, can we clarify?" These scripts prevent small tensions from becoming big explosions. 6. Provide emotional support during change. Resilient teams are responsive, not reactive. But transitions, new roles, downsizing, leadership changes, can shake confidence. Emotionally intelligent leaders validate that disruption. It's okay to feel unsettled. Let's talk about what's confusing right now. We'll get through this together. When emotions are acknowledged, teams stabilize faster. The role of emotional rituals in team cohesion. Every resilient team has rituals, small, consistent emotional practices that reinforce connection, clarity, and care. These rituals become anchors in turbulent times. Examples include Weekly Wins Roundup. Each member shares one success, big or small, to build a culture of recognition. Morning or closing huddles, brief check-ins to align emotionally, not just operationally. Appreciation Fridays, a moment for peers to acknowledge contributions of others publicly. Lessons learned sessions, after any project or crisis, not just what went wrong, but how the team felt and what they'd do emotionally different. These are not time wasters, they are energy stabilizers. They allow teams to reflect, recharge, and refocus. EQ in virtual and hybrid teams. Resilience becomes even more critical, and fragile, when teams are distributed. Without physical presence, emotional connection must be more intentional. Emotionally intelligent remote teams. Use cameras not just for formality, but to build presence. Incorporate more personal check-ins at the start of meetings. Make space for casual conversation. How's your day going? Isn't off topic, it's human. Respect emotional cues like fatigue or silence. Share emotional highs and lows just as they would project updates. Without EQ, remote teams become task machines. With it, they remain teams. Supporting the individual within the team. Every team is a mosaic of personalities, backgrounds, and emotional rhythms. Leaders and team members with high EQ recognize that one-size-fits-all doesn't work emotionally. Some people need frequent feedback, others value space. Some recharge through discussion, others prefer solitude. Some thrive on public praise, others find it overwhelming. Resilient teams don't demand sameness, they honor emotional diversity. They ask, "What does support look like to you?" rather than assuming. Case study, the Bounce Back Team. At a creative agency, a team suffered a major blow when a high-profile campaign was canceled days before launch due to a client's leadership change. Disappointment was thick. Some were angry. Others felt embarrassed. Productivity plummeted. But the team leader didn't jump straight to reassigning tasks. She called a meeting with one purpose, emotional reset. Each member shared what they felt, without interruption. Some vented, some cried, some laughed. By the end, they weren't fixed, but they were united. She followed up with one-on-ones, revised expectations, and reframed the narrative. This was painful. But our creativity and execution were strong. Let's focus on what we control next. Within weeks, the team delivered their next campaign early, energized, not bitter. That's resilience fueled by emotional intelligence. Managing the emotional underbelly of team success. Even success can carry emotional tension, envy, imposter syndrome, or overexhaustion. EQ-aware leaders and teammates notice when celebration masks stress. They ask, "Are you okay with all the attention? What's been the hardest part of this win for you? How can we protect our energy as we ride this momentum?" These aren't therapy sessions, they're leadership conversations that protect emotional bandwidth. EQ metrics that matter for teams. Traditional KPIs don't capture emotional resilience. But EQ-driven teams track more human indicators. Emotional tone in meetings, tense versus open. Frequency of unspoken concerns, low equals high safety. Voluntary peer support. Feedback loops, regular, honest, invited. Recovery speed after setbacks. Resilient teams don't avoid difficulty, they rebound faster and stronger. Final reflection, resilience is a shared resource. Emotionally intelligent teams are built on a simple but profound belief: we can handle things, together. They know that conflict won't break them, pressure won't paralyze them, and failure won't define them. They move with unity, bounce back with purpose, and support one another not as competitors, but as colleagues in courage. They don't just survive challenges. They grow through them. Because they are emotionally intelligent, together. Chapter 9, Emotional Intelligence in Conflict Resolution. Conflict is not the enemy of progress, it's often the birthplace of transformation. But only when it's handled with intention, awareness, and emotional intelligence. In any professional setting, conflict is inevitable. Whether it's a difference of opinion, unmet expectations, power dynamics, or simple miscommunication, tension will arise. The question isn't if conflict will happen, it's how you handle it that determines your influence and impact. Emotionally intelligent professionals don't avoid conflict, they engage with it skillfully. They don't suppress it or explode from it, they understand it, navigate it, and resolve it in ways that build, not break, relationships. The emotional anatomy of conflict. Every conflict, no matter how technical on the surface, carries an emotional undercurrent. Understanding those undercurrents is essential to resolving issues effectively. Here's what lies beneath most conflicts. Fear, of loss, of judgment, of being overlooked. Pride, wanting to protect ego or identity. Hurt, feeling disrespected or misunderstood. Uncertainty, confusion about roles, expectations, or decisions. Control, wanting to retain influence or power. Emotionally intelligent conflict resolution begins by recognizing not just what's being said, but what's being felt. Why most conflict escalates. Without EQ, conflict escalates due to assumptions, they're doing this on purpose. Defensiveness, I'm not wrong, you are. Avoidance, I'll just ignore it until it goes away. Triangulation, I'll tell someone else instead of addressing it directly. Explosions, suppressed tension eventually bursts out at the wrong time. These reactions don't solve the problem, they magnify it. Emotionally intelligent professionals use tools that transform conflict into clarity. EQ-based conflict resolution steps. 1. Pause and check yourself. Before addressing someone else, look inward. What exactly am I feeling? What story am I telling myself? What do I really want from this conversation, resolution, or to be right? Am I ready to listen, or just argue? This self-awareness creates emotional space, not escalation. 2. Separate facts from feelings. Instead of saying, "You always ignore my input," say, "I noticed during the last 2 meetings my ideas weren't acknowledged. I felt overlooked and frustrated." This shift creates room for dialogue, not defense. 3. Invite conversation, don't demand compliance. Try phrases like, "Can we talk about what happened the other day? I want to clear the air. I may have misunderstood something, and I'd like to check in with you. Can we figure out a better way to work through this?" The tone is open, not confrontational. 4. Practice active listening in conflict. Repeat what you hear before responding. So you're saying you felt dismissed in that meeting? It sounds like you were under a lot of pressure. This doesn't mean you agree, it means you're creating emotional safety. 5. Name and normalize emotions. Saying, "I was frustrated," or "I felt like my work wasn't valued," models vulnerability, and invites it in return. Normalize feelings. Don't minimize them. 6. Agree on shared outcomes. Even in disagreement, find common ground. We both care about this project's success. We want to work together better. Let's avoid this kind of tension going forward. Refocusing on shared goals helps realign fractured connections. The role of empathy in de-escalation. Empathy is the emotional lever that turns conflict from confrontation into connection. When people feel seen, not attacked, they're more likely to engage in solution building. In practice, this means saying things like, "I didn't realize how that came across. I see now why that upset you. If I were in your shoes, I might have felt the same. I respect where you're coming from, even if I see it differently." These statements don't concede power, they convey maturity. Common conflict personas, and how EQ responds. 1. The aggressor, loud, dominant, often intimidating. EQ response, remain calm, maintain boundaries, ask clarifying questions. Focus on facts and feelings, not tone. 2. The avoider, deflects, withdraws, shuts down. EQ response, create safety, give space, and gently invite re-engagement. Reaffirm the value of their voice. 3. The passive-aggressive, uses sarcasm, indirect jabs. EQ response, name patterns with care. "I feel like we're circling something, can we talk openly?" Encourage directness without shame. 4. The victim, centers conversation on personal injustice. EQ response, acknowledge their feelings, then redirect toward shared problem solving. "I hear you, and now I'd love for us to find a way forward." EQ allows you to respond to behavior without mirroring it. The courage to call it out. Emotionally intelligent professionals don't let unhealthy dynamics fester. They speak up, not to dominate, but to restore. Say, "I'm sensing some tension, can we name it and work through it? Our last few interactions felt off. I'd like to clear it up. I care about our collaboration too much to let this continue." Calling it out with care can reset the emotional tone and save relationships. Conflict doesn't end with agreement, it ends with repair. Even when issues are resolved, emotional repair is essential. That's the difference between ending a conflict and healing from it. Emotional repair means following up after the conversation. "Thanks for talking. How are you feeling about it now?" Acknowledging your own growth. "I've been thinking about what you said and I'm working on it." Reaffirming the relationship. "I value our work together, and I'm glad we could talk it through." Repair deepens trust. It's a message that says, this relationship matters more than this moment. Case reflection, from rupture to renewal. A senior engineer and a project manager were caught in repeated cycles of tension over deadlines. Communication had broken down. Blame was flying. Deadlines were missed. The organization brought in a facilitator trained in EQ-based conflict resolution. In a structured conversation, each party was asked not just what happened, but how it felt. What emerged wasn't new data, but new understanding. The engineer felt micromanaged. The manager felt excluded from key decisions. Both felt undervalued. Through empathy, acknowledgement, and a shared focus on team success, they re-established communication norms. Within 3 months, their project delivery rate improved, but more importantly, they enjoyed working together again. High EQ conflict tools you can use today. 1. The I statement structure. I feel, emotion, when, behavior, because, impact. What I'd prefer is, constructive alternative. 2. The cooling off agreement. If things escalate, pause with, let's revisit this tomorrow when we're calmer. 3. Shared language triggers. Use neutral phrases like, let's clarify, or let's align, rather than you don't get it, or you always. 4. Repair check-ins. Schedule time post-conflict to reconnect. How are we doing since that conversation? These tools don't make conflict disappear, but they make it doable. Final reflection: conflict is an opportunity. Handled poorly, conflict fractures teams, erodes morale, and kills momentum. But handled well, conflict creates clarity, trust, and resilience. Emotionally intelligent professionals don't fear conflict, they use it to sharpen communication, deepen respect, and build bridges. Because in the space between disagreement and understanding, they don't see a threat, they see a chance to grow. Chapter 10: The Continuous Journey, Cultivating Emotional Intelligence Daily. Emotional intelligence is not a destination, it's a daily practice. It's not something you check off a list after a workshop or master in a single book. It is a lifelong journey of self-awareness, emotional discipline, and intentional connection. The professionals who rise and sustain influence are not the ones who peak early, they're the ones who reflect consistently, grow persistently, and engage consciously. They treat emotional intelligence not as a skill set, but as a way of being. The truth is, EQ is not something you turn on when things get tough, it's something you cultivate every day so you're ready when things do. Making EQ a daily ritual. Rather than a reactive tool, emotional intelligence becomes a powerful force when it's embedded into your routines. 1. Morning centering. Before diving into tasks or messages, pause and ask, what's my emotional state right now? What do I want to bring to the people I interact with today? What would an emotionally intelligent version of me do today? This sets the tone for awareness rather than autopilot. 2. Midday checkpoint. At lunch or during a break, ask, what emotion has dominated my interactions so far? Have I paused before reacting today, or just powered through? Who might need a word of encouragement before the day ends? These small recalibrations prevent emotional drift. 3. Evening reflection. Before you end the day, consider, where did I respond well emotionally? Where did I react in a way that needs repair or reflection? What did today teach me about myself or others? Reflection turns experience into growth. The EQ growth loop. High EQ professionals build learning loops into their behavior. 1. Experience, emotional interaction or challenge. 2. Reflection, pause to ask, what happened internally and externally? 3. Adjustment, identify what you'll do differently next time. 4. Application, try again, with awareness. The loop continues daily, creating emotional agility. EQ is a relationship with yourself. Many people invest years improving how they appear to others. But emotionally intelligent people invest just as deeply in how they relate to themselves. This includes naming feelings without judging them. I'm anxious, and that's okay. Being kind when you fall short, that wasn't my best, but I'm learning. Celebrating emotional growth, I paused. I listened. That was progress. Trusting your emotional instincts without needing external validation. Emotional maturity begins with emotional acceptance. EQ requires boundaries. It's tempting to believe EQ means being open, patient, and available to everyone at all times. But emotional intelligence also includes knowing your limits. Daily EQ boundaries might include saying no without over-explaining, logging off when your energy is depleted, protecting deep work time from interruption, choosing where to invest empathy, and where to step back. Boundaries don't block emotional intelligence, they enable it. Case story, micro practices, macro results. Ali, a seasoned project consultant, began implementing 10-minute EQ moments in his calendar. Every Friday, he reviewed key emotional moments, tense calls, moments of pride, silent meetings, unexpected praise. He asked, what did I feel? What did I model? What might I try next time? Over a year, he noticed fewer conflicts, deeper client loyalty, and stronger mentorship with juniors. He didn't read more EQ books, he simply practiced. Integrating EQ into your professional identity. The most powerful professionals are those whose competence is balanced by character, and whose intelligence is magnified by empathy. Emotional intelligence, when fully embraced, is not something you do, it becomes who you are. Your colleagues won't remember every decision you made, but they will remember how you made them feel in moments of crisis, uncertainty, or challenge. Your clients may forget the finer points of your service, but they'll remember the tone of your voice when you listen to their fears. Your teams won't always agree with your strategies, but they will trust your leadership if they feel safe in your presence. This is the legacy of emotionally intelligent professionals. They are remembered not just for what they achieved, but for how they made others feel while achieving it. Creating an EQ ecosystem. Emotional intelligence thrives in environments where it is supported, shared, and practiced collectively. As you cultivate your own EQ, consider how to embed it in the places and people around you. In meetings, model emotional presence. In feedback sessions, bring curiosity before critique. In project planning, consider emotional impacts, not just logistics. In leadership, prioritize relationships alongside results. In conflict, move toward, not away, from discomfort. The more you show up emotionally grounded and aware, the more others will do the same. EQ creates ripple effects, one conversation at a time. Your EQ compass, daily questions to guide you. Use these prompts as a recurring self-check. What emotion led my behavior today? Did I listen more than I spoke? Where did I choose reaction over response? Who needed empathy from me today, and did I give it? What's one EQ moment I'm proud of? Over time, these reflections become habits. And habits become leadership. From awareness to mastery. The journey of emotional intelligence starts with awareness, but it blossoms into mastery through practice, humility, and persistence. Mastery is not about having perfect control, it's about intentional influence. Noticing the tension in a room, and addressing it. Realizing when you're triggered, and regulating it. Spotting a teammate's struggle, and offering support. Shifting from judging someone's behavior to understanding their emotion. These are not dramatic acts. They are daily choices. And they shape everything. EQ for a better future. In a world craving faster decisions, louder voices, and constant visibility, emotional intelligence offers an alternative path, one of meaning, connection, and depth. It allows professionals to lead with wisdom over noise, integrity over image, compassion over control. And in doing so, they don't just perform well, they create places where others can thrive too. Final reflection, you are the instrument. As you close this chapter, remember, emotional intelligence is not a tactic, it is a transformational commitment. You are not just developing a skill. You are refining the instrument through which you experience every relationship, every challenge, every triumph. That instrument is you. So each day, pick it up. Tune it with awareness. Play it with authenticity. Lead with heart. Speak with clarity. Act with integrity. And grow, always, with humility. Because the emotionally intelligent professional isn't the one who knows all the answers. It's the one who stays curious, grounded, and human, no matter the pressure. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your emotional legacy.